It is Locked On Jazz for the 4th of October. The Jazz are in San Antonio for preseason game number 1. We'll take a look at that. First, we'll discuss streaming a bit more after Friday's conversation and why Mike Conley seems to be in a different place, and it's very valuable for the Utah Jazz. That's all coming up on today's edition of Locked On Jazz. Pow!
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, and geeky numbers, hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you very much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We're here for you every day. We are free and available for you on all platforms. Happy Jazz Basketball Day. It is, in fact, a game day. We'll be on the radio, no television on this broadcast. You'll tune in to Ron and I from San Antonio. Apologize for those of you on YouTube. I forgot my camera. My webcam on my laptop doesn't seem to work. It's been fixed once or twice before. We'll try to get it fixed again. But I literally in the new season, first time on the road in 570 days. That was one thing I forgot. So I do want to share that experience. We're back on the road. I'm in San Antonio. I've not been on the road on a team flight since we flew home from Oklahoma City. Yesterday was a pretty emotional day, actually. I don't know what your guys' feeling was. I honestly never thought we would be back on the road. Maybe I'm a doomsdayer. Usually I'm pretty positive. I thought this thing through fairly well. But I truly never believed we'd get back on the road. I thought there were too many things, and I'm very thankful for the NBA and the Utah Jazz to have the respect they do for us as broadcasters, that to do this job and relay to you what's going on. You've got to be with the team and around. It was hard in the sense that a lot of these people are really close friends of mine, and you didn't get to spend time with them. Last night was great to go back out for dinner on the road. I ate way too much. I'm going to be a blimp. Maybe I'm never going to show my webcam ever again by the time this is over. But it just was, yesterday really bordering the plane. I was walking on with Mike Wells, Jazz assistant coach, and I just had to take a second and just really couldn't believe that we were that back to doing our jobs, and a job I dearly love and cherish. And now I can honestly say that I've never taken for granted being on that plane and being traveling with the team and what I get to do for a living. I never have taken it for granted. I hope you feel that. But it was really special yesterday. So wanted to share that with you, try to kind of share our lives and what it's like. And just, be back next to Ron. He was probably the one constant throughout it, but now we get to do it this way. It's back with Bowler and Thorough. Bowler and I probably have become closer in the last 570 days than we have before. That's the positive out of this. We're super close now, having, just joint experience. So it was really special yesterday. I don't know how else to share, and I don't want to get into all the reasons why I didn't think we were going to travel again, because frankly, I was wrong. And that's I'm super grateful for that. Speaking of being wrong, I must have I think I was flippant with my comments, which isn't great if you speak for a living, the other day about streaming. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about Mike Conley coming up. I think Mike Conley's in a really different, interesting place, and then I'll give you a guide what we're going to watch for it or listen for tonight. So I made the comment that most Jazz fans that I see talk to me about streaming and they want it for free. And the kickback was real. And the mistake of the word there, I think, is most, but I got to be honest, I didn't make that up. That is how it has felt to me throughout the process, is that when people have wanted streaming, what they've really wanted is K-Jazz all over again, where the games are free, and we're just not doing that again. But it was interesting to get the kickback and the feedback from everyone that, whoa, that's not how I feel at all. I just want to not have to pay the cable companies all this money. What I think is very, very difficult if you start to do the math on this is that the most common comment someone said is, I'll pay league pass prices for me to be able to stream. I don't know. I haven't done the math. There was a guy on Twitter by the name of, I think, Adam Bushman, who did a pretty good job of this. And maybe I can get somebody on from the Jazz to talk about this at some point. But I even think as good a job as Adam did on his thread, like, I think he's off on a few things. No reason, but I'm not actually certain because, frankly, I don't know either. So that's like, there's no way he should know it. But, the Jazz get a fairly significant rights fee from AT&T Sportsnet. And if they're going to launch their own streaming service, they would have to match that deal. There's a reason why no team in the NBA has launched their own streaming service yet. And there's a reason why these streaming service, these AT&T Sportsnets are paying large amounts of money to teams like the Jazz for their rights, because that is the last single thing that prevents you from cutting the cord and streaming. Like, this is that's the game. According to the Salt Lake Tribune, the deal for in an article that was written by Andy Larson on July 12th, that the deal's about $20 million per year for the Jazz to be able to get their $20 million per year for their rights fees. Well, if you're going to do it yourself, and I don't believe that AT&T sells the inventory. I think that's just the rights to the games. I believe the Jazz are still selling the American First Credit Union and the Zions Bank starting lineups and all the fun things that I get to do during a broadcast. If you're selling $20 million and people want to pay, well, I'll pay my $100 I pay for League Pass. That's 200,000 people. That math is not, there are not 200,000 people out there that are subscribing. At $200, it's 100,000 people. I don't think there's 100,000 people that are subscribing for $200. So I think you get into really, this is what I was trying to say last week, is I think for it to be financially reasonable for the team to do, and you can't do both. The minute you offer a streaming service, you cut your legs out from your AT&T money, right? Because now you've given them an option of, like, that's not exclusivity. That's what they're buying. So, it gets to be, that's a pretty outrageous. So now we're up to, I think we're up, and by the way, 20 million is not the number the Jazz want out of that, right? If they're getting 20 million now, they want something far more. I don't know how many households there are that would subscribe, but I don't think it's, right? You think, well, there's 19,000 tickets. That's not 19,000 households. And then you have the fact that people are sharing services and doing. So I do think, I kind of go back to what I didn't state very well the other day. I do think it's far more expensive than anyone realizes for the Jazz to do this, for you as the consumer. I mean, to some extent, I almost believe it becomes, I don't know, like, I almost think that, and I don't know what the lowest level season ticket is for 2 season tickets, but I almost think there's like this level that you better. And then here's a really weird one. If I'm paying $500 a year for Jazz games, does that preclude me from wanting to go to the game or make me want to go to the game? Like, I've never thought about that before. What's the impact on ticket sales? So this is not my forte. Maybe I can get somebody to come on the show and talk about it and the math. I'm not sure they want to probably reveal all of it because a lot of it has to do with negotiations with it. But it's not, other than I want streaming service, which as a consumer you want, it's not as easy an answer. And I think the price tag that most people are saying I'd be willing to pay is not sufficient. And that's probably what I should have said yesterday. All right, I think Mike Conley's in a really interesting place, and it's vitally important to the Jazz, and I'm going to talk about it when we continue. Thanks very much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day and every day. We are free and available for you on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can subscribe on Locked On Jazz. If you're watching on YouTube right now, it's a little subscribe button on the bottom right-hand corner. Please feel free to grab it. The Murdoch family is doing something amazing during this time right now where car shortage is going on. They have vowed to not increase prices above MSRP. That's a pretty big statement by the Murdochs and their 80-year commitment to being in Utah. This includes Murdoch Chevy as well as Murdoch Hyundai. The Chevy lineup of cars right now is fabulous. That's Murdoch Chevy, located in Woods Cross and in Logan. If you're going to head over to either of them, you can feel free to drop me an email first, and I'll set up a private meeting with you so you don't have to go through that awkward kind of walk in the process. Here's some of the deals that are going on. 0% for 72 months on the Equinox right now, or a $3,000 cash allowance. They also have the great truck lineup that you know so well, your Silverados and your Colorados, with the amazing SUV lineup that leads off with the Tahoe and the Suburban. It's all at Murdoch Chevy. They will not charge you above MSRP, which is a pretty classy move by the Murdochs, staying as a true member of our community. Fantasy basketball season is right around the corner. You should be listening to Locked On Fantasy Basketball to get the latest, but you also could play the Sleeper app, the brand new way of playing fantasy basketball. It's called Game Pick, and it's only available on Sleeper. In Game Pick, owners pick a single game per week for each starter to count towards their team's total score, ensuring an even number of games between opponents. So the days of losing because your guy got a Sunday game and you didn't is over. It was mindless busy work. It took too much time. So this is better. Pick your player matchups, look at home versus away, see who's playing Rudy Gobert and run away from them, pace of play, all those various things. Sleeper crack the fantasy basketball code. If you're playing fantasy football, you'd prefer building out a weekly strategy versus daily busy work, and they're going to do the same with basketball and Game Pick. So download the Sleeper app and start a league with your friends today. You will not be disappointed. So Mike Conley, I think, is in a super interesting place. Hello to Cameron. Hello to Ray over on the live chat on our videoless YouTube today. I may or may not be wearing a shirt. I'm in my hotel room. I will be fun because I'll get to show you the hotel rooms and all the various things, which we always used to do. So that'll become a part of our live YouTube broadcast once I actually remember to bring a webcam. Hey, let me have my preseason mistakes too. So I think Mike Conley's in a really, really interesting place in a good way, because Mike Conley chose to play for the Utah Jazz for the first time. I was blown away in media day at just kind of how astute he was, how in tune he was to where I thought he needed to be as a player, how important I thought his voice was going to be for the Utah Jazz this year. And as I've thought about it, and the word I'm hearing out of camp is that he has been more vocal and more kind of assertive, and he's got to have some more ownership than he ever had before. And that is in the sense that he really has, I thought there was a real chance he was going to Dallas. I thought there was a real chance he was going to New York. And what did he say when he met with us? But I had so much to lose. So certainly a cornerstone of that is his relationship with Quinn. I mean, it's a reoccurring theme all the time we get about these guys and their connection to Quinn and that relationship and the position that Quinn, he makes them feel, and that they all know he's putting them in their best chance to succeed. That's really clear. But I think there's a bigger concept here. Mike got traded to Utah. He came as kind of the one that was going to push them over the edge. He had an uncomfortable first year. And then he had a very good second year as he kind of figured it out. It was very interesting. I talked to him about his routine. And, what he said about it was that he called his dad, former Olympian, and said, come on. He's like, I used to drive from Memphis to the arena, 45-minute drive. I had a playlist. He's like, I didn't have a playlist. I had a playlist and the songs played in the correct order the whole time. And I always drove in at the same point to the same song because if I got a phone call, I didn't take it because it would disrupt my playlist. And then I came to Salt Lake and it was a 7-minute drive and I just was uncomfortable the whole time. And his dad said, well, why don't you just try doing different things all the time? And so he became much less dependent on that. And that allowed him to have some comfort zone kind of in a backwards way. And, you know, a little bit of that point is I got 3 kids now. I get phone, like there's things that are needed. There's nothing that actually, like there's no way to have that routine. He's like, I asked him if he still meditated. He said, I have to. I have 3 kids. But he says, otherwise, like you can't really build your plan out the way you want it with 3 kids. And so that's, you know, one of the ways he became more comfortable. Now, the next step is that in the offseason, he made a choice for the first time. Like, I'm sure Memphis came to him and said, hey, by the way, the Utah Jazz want to trade for you. You all right with that? Like, he's earned that respect out of that organization that I think that they asked. But that's not the same thing as saying, I want to go play for the Utah Jazz. And Mike Conley in the offseason made that subtle distinction where he decided it was time to play for the Jazz and chose to come back. There's a much, and now he's got 11 again. It's a much larger amount of ownership than he had prior. Okay, the second part of this is a conversation that he had with JJ Redick on JJ Redick's podcast, where they both talked about being young, being in the playoffs, knocking on the door for a championship, and assuming that they always would. Right? So if you go back to Mike's early years, Mike Conley's in Memphis playing with Zach Randolph, playing with, and I'll get to this where I think this is super important, Tony Allen, playing with this Rudy Gay at one point, but this Memphis group of teams. And, you know, at 23 years old, they lose in Game 7 of the Western Conference semifinals. 24, they lose in Game 7 of the first round. 25, I think it is, he loses to the Spurs, gets swept in the Western Conference finals. Then it's back to a first-round series. Then they go to the second round against the Warriors and get a legendary series where the Warriors emerge. And then it's like, then they're kind of done. But, you know, Marc Gasol, Mike Conley, Zach Randolph, that group certainly thought it was going to go forever. What's interesting to me is so Mike was talking to JJ Redick and saying, like, yeah, at that point in your career, you like assume it's always going to be there. You're always knocking the door. You'll eventually get to the finals. Mike and JJ were talking, I think, during I think it was last year. And, you know, obviously they're both sitting there sharing that they're having the opposite experience, that the Clipper teams JJ had never got through. Now he's bouncing around. Mike's saying at the time, like, this Jazz team feels like it's closer than what I've been before. And now he's chosen to come back. So he comes now, this is the third part of this. He comes with this perspective that is understanding like it doesn't happen all the time, etc. The player he's most important to this season is Donovan Mitchell and then probably Rudy Gobert. Because think about the ages I just ran through with Mike Conley in Memphis, in which Mike talks about with JJ Redick, at that point in my career, I just always thought I'd have a chance. I'd always thought I'd have a chance. I'd always thought I'd have a chance. And now here I am at 30, whatever years old, and it's almost gone. Like, that's a message he can say to Donovan. Like, Don, like, I was here. I mean, I'm sure Don's gonna be like, yeah, whatever. I'm great, and I'll always be in it. And he's probably right. But you know what? That's what Mike Conley would have said at that point. But there wasn't that voice on Memphis. And so maybe that voice to Donovan can be extremely, extremely valuable. If I wasn't with the team last year, if I had something that jumped out to me when I watched the team last year from afar, I didn't think Mike was particularly vocal in his leadership on the court. Now, I didn't see shoot-arounds, and I didn't see, so this is like exactly where like my comment this year, now I have a much better perspective. We'll see. But to me, and I'll have no idea how to contrast it to last year, to me, I thought that was lacking for the Utah Jazz last year. And I think it'll be interesting to see if he's there. Now, the moment we probably would have seen it is when he deals with all his injuries last year, his hamstring and his calf and everything else. And so I don't know that maybe I would have seen it. So anyway, I think Mike Conley's a particularly interesting place. Those are the three reasons why. Riker says it's exciting to see what players want to be here. Conley, Clarkson, Rudy Gay, Whiteside, Gobert, Mitchell resigning. Tells me these guys really believe in what coach is preaching. Awesome. It's a good point by Riker. Oh, I could actually, since I have nothing else on the screen, I think I could put that up on the screen for those people. So that's what Riker had to say today. You're welcome to join the chat rooms when we do the shows live on YouTube each day. Subscribe on YouTube, follow on all your channels. Thanks very much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. Locked On Fantasy Basketball is getting you ready for the season for your second listen today. Next, we'll talk about the game tonight and what the Jazz, are important aspects to the game for the Jazz and the Spurs. Today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. The candy bar that tastes like a protein bar, or the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Mint Puffs are out right now. They are 100% real chocolate, 100% delicious. They are happiness wrapped in chocolate. 130 calories, 70 grams of protein, and 5 grams of sugar. Special new flavor, cherry lime, also available. Peanut butter brownie, coconut almond, coconut mint brownie, salted caramel, raspberry, double chocolate, cookies and cream, and cherry barcia. You can build your own box. You can mix flavors. Plus, you get the incredible macros I just mentioned. Just 130 calories, 2.5 fat grams, 4 net carbs, 4 sugars, and 17 grams of protein. It's all from Built Bar. Go to BuiltBar.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15 to get 15% off. Do you have one device for this and another device for that and one remote for this and one remote for that? Well, it's time to get that all figured out with DirecTV Stream. It brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. And that, of course, means no more juggling remotes, no need to buy another dance, you don't need to buy a dance, but device ever again. And best part, no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get yourself DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. Let's go directly to directtv.com. It is DirecTV Stream without the hassle. It's a great way to get all of your items together at DirecTV Stream. Any questions are welcome in the live chat each and every day as we bring the show to you live most mornings as well now via our YouTube channel. Also available on Spotify, Apple, Google, and all your podcast providers. Free and available on all platforms. It is Locked On Jazz. All right, tonight, the first thing is just getting him out for a run. No Bojan and no Rudy Gay. So that position is going to get a lot of attention, and some guys are going to get some time that maybe not otherwise. And I think the fourth quarter will be guys getting run that we're probably not used to seeing. So Eric Paschall is going to get probably the biggest increase of time due to injuries. He steps into Rudy Gay's role, and he might basically step into Bojan's role a little bit. He played a lot of 5 last year with the Warriors. So how does he move and play and space the floor as a 4? Can he shoot it well enough to be an asset to this team? His strength at Fordham was an isolation one-on-one player. That was his strength at Villanova, and then he kind of got out of that, started being a ball mover, and then in Golden State, he had to play more isolation style than kind of because of who he played with. He didn't play with Steph and Draymond. So how does he do dribble handoffs? Can he roll to the basket? He's a very strong finisher at the rim. Does he look at all different in a new system? Does anyone, it's too early to know if anyone will respect his shot. He's not a natural shooter. He's a 30% three-point shooter. That's obviously got to get up to 35. Can he get ball? Can he make plays at the rim? He shot 73% his rookie year at the rim and 67% last year. He's actually a pretty decent. Okay, he didn't take a lot, obviously, but kind of some of those mid-range shots, he's actually corner jumpers. He shot 51% on the long two last year, which is good enough to take it. Like if you can hit 51% of your long two. So let's watch that. Then defensively, can he move well enough to play in various positions and not play the center? And they weren't very good defensively last year. He played 65% of his minutes as center. The year before, he played 76% of his minutes as a power forward. In neither circumstance has the team been any good when he's on the floor, and in neither circumstances he played with anyone who's any good. So let's see how he does with that. Jared Butler is the obvious next one. The word out of camp is the kid can really shoot it. And that's the exciting thing, because I think what will be important for Jared Butler is the ability to play off the ball as much as it is to play on the ball. We have so many multiple ball handlers that what he actually brings that probably the contrasting player Trent Forrest does not is his ability to really stroke it and really shoot it. He shot 42% from three last year at Baylor and 39.5 the year before. He averaged 16 points a game last year. That's going to be what's different for the third team All-American is if he can play off the ball on the weak side, they can swing it and he becomes a bona fide catch and shoot demon. That gets him playing time. And I think his playing time is important this year. If he can get himself out there for 10 or 12 minutes a night, it allows Joe to slide. It allows Conley to play less. It allows that when nights when Conley doesn't play and you have to up that to 18 or 19, and maybe it's only play 6 minutes a night. Just getting comfort on the floor every night playing. I don't expect to rely on him at all in the playoffs. I think he's actually the regular season maintenance guy. I actually think Pascal is too. That's almost what we're looking for tonight, is how the guys who are going to be able to relieve the burden on the other guys with some depth. I mean, last year we had 9 guys, and when we went to 10, it felt Oni actually had a half decent year, but it just felt very thin, and you didn't think you could do it in the playoffs, and Oni wasn't making shots in the second half of the season. This year, can Pascal play as a 10th guy? Can Butler be an 11th guy? Probably flip those two. Is Oni's shot any better as a 12th guy? These are the guys that will lessen the burden on the roster. The other one is Whiteside. I've obviously been high on Whiteside as the one who I think changes our season the most of anyone, in the fact that, if he can, first of all, I think the more I'm hearing, the idea that he's here and Rudy can play against him and battle against him and do those kind of things is vitally important for the team. And then the second thing is just those minutes and how does he play in those stints? Is he comfortable playing the short stints? Is it something he adapts to? That's going to be a huge question. What the Jazz do with Rudy is they play him in the 3 stints, the 5 minutes, and the 6 in the first half. And so you play, 6 minutes open up, and then the next guy gets 4, then Rudy comes back with 2, and then Rudy plays 5 or 6 right there again, call it 6 just to make the math easy. And then, you come back for 4, and then Rudy plays the final 6. Those are really short stints, and he doesn't even actually get that much. He gets 4 and 3, does Whiteside. And so how does he learn how to play that? He's been a starter his whole career. Does that rhythm cause him problems? And how does he do that? So those are the things that I'll be talking about on the broadcast. You can tune into Ron and I. I honestly, as of 7:42 in the morning Mountain Time recording this, I do not know if we're on KSL tonight at 1160 and 102.7, but I do know we're on our good friends, The Zone, 95.7 and 1280 a.m., plus the Utah Jazz app. Plus, you can get Audio League Pass for $9.95 and listen to all of the brilliant radio announcers across the NBA. Have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. For your second listen, go listen to Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Cameron says, so excited for Whiteside. He isn't a replica of Rudy. He does enough similar that our numbers without Rudy shouldn't change as much, right? That's the concept. That's why numerically I think Whiteside is the player that changes the most. Thank you, Cameron. It was nice to meet you last week as well. It is Locked On Jazz, part of the Locked On podcast.